I sat quietly at the far end of the long mahogany table, my fingers loosely wrapped around a crystal wine glass. The soft clink of silverware and laughter echoed around the lavish dining hall, but to me, it all sounded like a dull hum, just background noise to a show I knew all too well. Nathan, my husband, raised his glass high, his voice booming over the chatter. Well, here's to another month of— What should we call it, sweetheart? Creative unemployment? He said with a smirk, locking eyes with me across the table. His friends, senior executives, dressed to perfection in tailored suits, burst into laughter, some nearly choking on their expensive scotch. Nathan leaned back in his chair, satisfied with his punchline. Maybe you should apply as a receptionist somewhere, Isabella. A little desk job would suit you nicely. The men howled again, their mockery slicing through the room like cold steel. I lowered my eyes, hiding the flicker of a smile that tugged at my lips. Let them laugh. Let them think they held all the cards. They had no idea. My name is Isabella Hayes. To the world, I'm a woman living in the shadow of my powerful husband, a woman who, on the surface, appears to have no career, no purpose, no worth of her own. But what none of them realize is that I'm the founder and CEO of Hayes Technologies, the very company these men brag about running, the empire they think they built. Tonight, they see me as weak, insignificant, but tomorrow I'll remind them exactly who I am, and their world will never be the same. People always said marriage was a partnership. I believed that too. Once. When I met Nathan, he seemed like everything a woman could hope for. Smart, ambitious, charming in a way that felt effortless. I was captivated, and I let myself fall fast. But what Nathan didn't know, and what I never revealed, was that I was already building something of my own. Hayes Technologies was in its infancy back then, just a fledgling idea fueled by sleepless nights and endless grit. But I wanted to see who Nathan really was, without the weight of my success hanging between us. So I made a decision that would change everything. I hid my true identity. I told Nathan I was a freelance financial consultant, struggling to find steady footing. I rented a modest apartment, drove an aging sedan, and lived a life far smaller than the one I had already earned. He never questioned it, not at first. In those early years, he was kind and supportive, always encouraging me to keep trying and never give up. It felt genuine. We got married. We built a life together. But something shifted. As time passed and I continued to play my role, Nathan's patience thinned. He began to see me not as a partner, but as a burden. His words turned sharp, his glances dismissive. He made subtle digs in private, then bolder ones in public. What once was quiet support became loud humiliation. I should have walked away. But instead, I watched. I watched as Nathan climbed the corporate ladder at Hayes Technologies, oblivious to the fact that the woman he was married to, the woman he belittled, was the one who had signed off on his promotions, his bonuses, his rise to vice president. He and his circle of friends strutted around the office like they owned the place, sipping overpriced coffee and flashing expensive watches. They reveled in power, completely blind to where it truly came from. The more Nathan belittled me, the clearer his true character became. He thrived on dominance, not partnership. He needed to feel superior, especially over me. That's when my resentment started to sharpen into something else. Resolve. I began to collect small details. Offhand comments Nathan made at home about shady deals, whispered conversations he had late at night on the phone. I didn't confront him, not yet. Instead, I listened, recorded, and took mental notes. His arrogance made him careless, and his carelessness was my greatest weapon. Outwardly, I remained the same quiet, unemployed wife. But inside, I was building my case, brick by brick. And I wasn't alone. I began assembling a private team, investigators, analysts, cybersecurity experts, people I trusted to help me uncover every lie, every betrayal happening under my company's roof. The deeper we dug, the worse it got. Corruption, embezzlement, backdoor deals with competitors. Nathan and his friends weren't just morally bankrupt. They were a cancer eating away at everything I had built. But I wasn't ready to act. Not yet. I wanted to understand the rot fully, to see it, feel it, experience it firsthand. And so, I did something even more daring. I created an entirely new identity. I became Emma Brooks, an ordinary woman seeking an entry-level position at Hayes Technologies. I wanted to know what it felt like to be on the other side of Nathan's power games, to sit across from the men who ruled my company and see how they treated those they thought were beneath them. I didn't have to wait long to find out. Walking into Hayes Technologies as Emma Brooks was surreal. I knew every inch of that building. The polished marble floors, the scent of fresh coffee wafting through the lobby, the hum of productivity vibrating in the air. But this time, I wasn't entering through the executive entrance or stepping into my private office. I was just another applicant, clutching a simple black folder with a fake resume and hoping for a chance. The interview room was small and sterile, tucked away on the 7th floor. 3 men sat behind a sleek conference table, Nathan's trusted allies. I recognized all of them immediately, though none of them recognized me. To them, I was nobody. The smugness started the moment I walked in. "You've been unemployed for how long now?" one of them asked, barely glancing at my papers. His voice oozed condescension, his eyes flicking up and down as if assessing my worth with a single look. I kept my expression timid, my voice soft. "About a year. I've been searching for the right opportunity." Another man leaned back, arms crossed. And you think this is it? We receive hundreds of applications from people far more qualified." The third man didn't even pretend to be interested. He scrolled through his phone, smirking. I had no doubt he was messaging Nathan, probably making jokes at my expense before I even left the room. It was a performance, and I let them have their stage. For 15 minutes, they belittled me, throwing out dismissive remarks disguised as feedback. They never asked about my skills, never cared about my answers. To them, I was nothing more than a powerless woman begging for a chance. They had no idea I was the one who held their futures in my hands. I left the interview with my head bowed and my shoulders hunched, playing my part to perfection. But inside, I was burning with a quiet fury. What I witnessed firsthand confirmed everything I had suspected. Nathan and his circle had poisoned the company culture from the inside out. Their arrogance, their entitlement, it wasn't just directed at me. It infected every level of the organization. They thrived on intimidation, on crushing those who dared to dream bigger. I couldn't let it continue. For the next year, my private team and I worked around the clock, unearthing every dark secret buried beneath Hayes Technologies' glossy exterior. We traced illegal transactions, money siphoned through shell companies, lavish vacations charged to corporate accounts. We intercepted emails, deals made with rival firms, confidential data leaked for personal gain. And we documented the worst of it all: the harassment, the discrimination, the blatant abuse of power. The evidence piled higher and higher, each piece more damning than the last. But gathering proof wasn't enough. I needed to time my strike perfectly, to dismantle Nathan's empire in one clean, undeniable sweep. So I waited. I watched. And every time Nathan came home, bragging about his latest win at work, every time he looked down on me like I was less than nothing, I bit my tongue and smiled. Because I knew the day was coming when his world would collapse, and I would be the one to bring it down. That day was closer than he could have imagined. The morning of the board meeting dawned crisp and clear, the kind of day that almost dares you to feel invincible. I arrived early, not through the back entrance, not in disguise, but as myself. Isabella Hayes, founder and CEO of Hayes Technologies. For the first time in years, I let my presence fill the lobby, walking with my head high as employees scurried past, nodding politely without realizing who I really was. But soon, they would know. They all would. The boardroom was a cathedral of glass and steel, its walls lined with panoramic windows that framed the city skyline. At the center of it all was the long oak table where the company's fate had been decided time and time again, often without my voice in the room. But today, I was taking my seat at the head of the table. One by one, the executives filtered in, shuffling papers, making small talk, oblivious to what was coming. Nathan and his inner circle arrived last, laughing among themselves as if it were just another routine meeting. Nathan's eyes skimmed the room and then froze when he saw me. His smile faltered. He blinked, confused, as if trying to process why his unemployed wife was sitting where no one expected her to be. His voice wavered when he finally spoke. "Isabella? What are you doing here?" I smiled, calm and steady. "Sit down, Nathan. You're going to want to hear this." The room went quiet. Nathan glanced around, seeking clarity from his colleagues, but they were just as bewildered. Slowly, he and the others took their seats, shifting uncomfortably as tension thickened the air. I placed my hand on the thick folder in front of me, my voice razor-sharp. "Before we begin, I'd like to formally reintroduce myself. My name is Isabella Hayes, founder and CEO of Hayes Technologies." Gasps rippled across the room. Shock twisted Nathan's face into something almost unrecognizable. Fear, disbelief, rage all tangled together. The color drained from his cheeks. "No," he muttered, shaking his head. This has to be some kind of joke." "It's no joke," I replied, clicking a remote in my hand. The massive screen behind me flickered to life, and one by one, documents, emails, photos, and video recordings flashed across the display. Irrefutable proof of every corrupt deal, every stolen dollar, every violation of trust. The room sat frozen, eyes wide, jaws clenched, as their sins were laid bare for all to see. "For the past 2 years," I said evenly, "I've been gathering evidence of your misconduct. Every illegal transaction, every backdoor deal, every moment of harassment and abuse. You thought you were untouchable, but the only reason you got away with it for so long was because I allowed it." Nathan lurched forward, his fists clenched on the table. "You can't do this! I'm the vice president! I built this company!" "You built nothing," I cut him off, my tone ice cold. "I built this company. I hired you. I gave you everything. And now, I'm taking it all back." I reached for the stack of termination papers beside me, signing each one with deliberate precision. Then I slid them across the table toward Nathan and his cronies. "Effective immediately, you are all terminated." Silence. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Nathan shot up, his face burning with fury and humiliation. "You think you can just erase me? This is my company, too." Security guards appeared at the door, stepping inside quietly but firmly. I leaned back in my chair, my gaze locked onto Nathan's. "No, Nathan, this was never your company. It was mine. And now it's time for you to leave." One by one, they were escorted out, stripped of their titles, their power, their illusions. Nathan looked around desperately, hoping someone, anyone, would stand with him. But his allies had already turned away, their eyes downcast, their loyalties crumbling. I didn't bother watching them go. Instead, I sat still for a moment, breathing in the silence that followed their exit. A silence that felt cleaner, lighter, freer. Today, justice had been served, but my work was only beginning. In the days that followed, the air inside Hayes Technologies shifted, subtly at first, like the stirring of leaves before a storm. Whispers filled the hallways, rumors spread like wildfire. Everyone knew something monumental had happened, though few understood the full scale. But as the dust settled, one truth became clear. A new era had begun. I wasted no time. My first order of business was a complete audit of the company's leadership. Every executive who had enabled Nathan and his circle, whether through silence, complicity, or cowardice, was swiftly shown the door. I wasn't interested in preserving old alliances or sparing bruised egos. This was about restoring the integrity of the company I had poured my soul into building. But I didn't just purge, I rebuilt. I reached out to the people who had once made Hayes Technologies great, the employees who had been sidelined, silenced, or driven out by Nathan's toxic regime. I invited them back, offering not just jobs, but a chance to lead. One of them was Lisa Chen, a brilliant software engineer who had been forced out after refusing to play along with the boys' club culture. When I called her personally, There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "Are you sure you want me back?" she asked cautiously. "I don't just want you back," I told her. "I want you to lead." Seeing Lisa walk through the front doors again, head held high, was one of the most satisfying moments of my career. And she wasn't alone. Dozens of former employees returned, their eyes filled with cautious hope and quiet determination. I overhauled the company's policies, implementing zero-tolerance rules for harassment, introducing an anonymous reporting system, and launching mentorship programs designed to nurture young talent, especially women and minorities who had been overlooked for far too long. We also established regular town hall meetings where every employee's voice could be heard, no matter their title or seniority. Training sessions focused not just on productivity, but on ethics, empathy, and true leadership. Slowly but surely, the culture of fear and intimidation that had poisoned us from within began to fade. The transformation was immediate. For the first time in years, smiles returned to people's faces. Meetings were no longer tense, dominated by egos and hidden agendas. Instead, there was collaboration, innovation, and, most importantly, a renewed sense of purpose. One moment stood out to me above all. A month after the leadership overhaul, I passed by the break room and saw Lisa and her new team brainstorming ideas for a groundbreaking AI project. Their faces were lit up with passion and creativity, so different from the weariness and caution I had seen just weeks earlier. That's when it hit me. Hayes Technologies was no longer just a company. It was a community, a family. And as I walked through those halls, hearing laughter and seeing teams huddled together, energized and united, I knew we had turned the page. Nathan and his cronies were gone, but their absence wasn't the victory. This was. It didn't take long for news of Nathan's downfall to ripple through the business world. The headlines were merciless. Financial news outlets dissected every detail of the scandal, and social media exploded with speculation and judgment. Nathan Hayes, once the golden boy of Hayes Technologies, had been publicly stripped of everything: his title, his reputation, his influence. Within a week, 3 of his closest allies filed for bankruptcy. Rumor had it their wives filed for divorce soon after. Nathan, who once commanded boardrooms and reveled in power, now found himself working as a sales associate at a small electronics store in the suburbs. Gone were the tailored suits and Rolex watches. In their place, a cheap polo shirt and a name tag pinned to his chest. I heard from an old friend who happened to walk into the store one day. She told me Nathan looked like a shadow of his former self. Thinner, eyes hollow, shoulders slumped. He barely made eye contact as he rang up customers, a man who once thought himself invincible, now reduced to a quiet, broken figure. People asked me if I felt satisfied, if seeing Nathan fall so far brought me the closure I had been craving. The truth? It didn't matter. I didn't rebuild Hayes Technologies for revenge. I did it to restore something far more important: justice, fairness, and hope for the people who deserved better. Yes, exposing Nathan and his circle had been necessary. But the real victory wasn't their downfall. It was everything that came after. 6 months later, I stood by my office window, looking out at the city lights that stretched endlessly toward the horizon. The building around me buzzed with life, teams collaborating late into the night, projects taking shape that would define the company's future. We had just signed a landmark deal with a leading European software firm, expanding our reach further than ever before. Our AI research team, led by Lisa, had developed a groundbreaking platform that was already drawing attention across the industry. The transformation was undeniable, financially, ethically, and culturally. But what stayed with me the most was simpler than any headline or stock report. It was the way employees now walked the halls, with their heads high, their eyes bright, their voices heard. Hayes Technologies had become more than a business again. It was a symbol, a reminder that no matter how deep corruption runs, there is always a way to fight back, to rebuild, to rise stronger. Sometimes, late at night, when the office quieted and I was alone with my thoughts, I would think back to the woman I had been when this all started. the one who sat at that dinner table, swallowing humiliation with a glass of wine, pretending to be small so others could feel big. I would remember the sting of Nathan's words, the dismissive looks, the laughter that haunted me long after the parties were over. But now, those memories felt distant, almost like watching a movie of someone else's life. Because the truth is, I had outgrown that version of myself. I had learned that true power isn't about crushing others or seeking vengeance. It's about lifting people up, creating something that lasts, and refusing to let anyone diminish your worth. I had turned my pain into purpose, and in doing so, I had not only reclaimed my company, I had reclaimed myself. As I stepped away from the window and joined my executive team in the boardroom to map out our next ambitious move, I realized something else. This was never just about me or Nathan. It was about every woman who's ever been told she wasn't enough. And we are more than enough. I was Isabella Hayes. And this was only the beginning.